The night my life changed began with a lie so small I thought it would disappear before anyone noticed. I was standing outside my apartment in the cold, holding a grocery bag in one hand and my 6-year-old daughter's forgotten school project in the other, when my neighbor walked toward me with a smile that made me forget every reason I had promised myself never to get involved in her life. Then her ex appeared at the end of the driveway, angry, suspicious, and demanding to know why she was with me. I should have told him the truth. Instead, I looked him straight in the eyes and said the words that would change everything: she had been with me all evening. My neighbor smiled. Not nervously. Not awkwardly. She smiled like she had been waiting for me to say exactly that, and quietly told me not to make her correct me. Before we go any further, if you believe that kindness can heal broken hearts and that everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to Dad's Second Chance. You never know whose heart might need a story like this tonight. My name is Daniel, and for the past 3 years, I had been living alone with my 6-year-old daughter, Emma, in a quiet neighborhood where everybody seemed to know everybody else's business. After my wife passed away following a sudden illness, I stopped believing that life could surprise me in a good way. My world became simple. Work, school runs, grocery shopping, dinner, homework, bedtime, repeat. I wasn't unhappy because I loved my daughter more than anything, but somewhere inside me, I had stopped expecting happiness to knock on my door again. Then Sarah moved into the house next door. She was 32, with shoulder-length brown hair, a gentle smile, and a way of carrying herself that made even ordinary moments feel peaceful. At first, our relationship was nothing more than friendly waves across the fence. Then Emma dropped her favorite stuffed rabbit into Sarah's yard, and Sarah returned it with a little note tied around its neck. After that, Emma began finding reasons to visit her. Sometimes it was to show Sarah a drawing. Sometimes it was to ask about her flowers. And sometimes, I knew, it was simply because Sarah made her feel safe. Sarah had a son named Noah, who was around Emma's age, and soon the 4 of us developed a comfortable rhythm. Children played in the yard while Sarah and I talked over coffee. We never called it anything more than friendship. But there were moments when I caught Sarah looking at me for a second longer than necessary, and moments when I felt my own heart doing something I had forgotten how to recognize. The problem was Sarah's ex, Mark. He had been her boyfriend for nearly 5 years, and even though they had separated months before she moved into the neighborhood, he still behaved as if he owned a piece of her life. He would show up without warning, question where she had been, ask who she was talking to, and become irritated whenever she refused to explain herself. Sarah always tried to keep the peace because Noah was involved, but I could see the exhaustion in her eyes whenever Mark left. One Friday evening, Sarah came over to return a casserole dish. Emma was already asleep upstairs, and Noah was spending the night with his grandmother. Sarah stayed at the kitchen table longer than usual. She told me she was tired of being treated like she needed permission to live her own life. I told her that she didn't owe anyone an explanation for choosing peace. She looked at me quietly and said that sometimes peace was easier to find when someone reminded you that you deserved it. Neither of us said what we were both thinking. The next afternoon, Sarah and I took the kids to a small community fair. Nothing romantic happened. We ate sandwiches, watched the children ride a little train, and laughed when Noah tried to win a stuffed bear from a game booth and failed 6 times. But as the sun began to set, Sarah looked genuinely happy. It was the first time I had seen her smile without fear behind it. That was when Mark arrived. He came walking through the crowd with a hard expression, his eyes immediately finding Sarah. He asked why she hadn't answered his messages. Sarah calmly told him she had been spending time with friends. Mark looked at me, then at Emma and Noah, and his expression changed. He accused Sarah of hiding something from him. She told him they were no longer together and that he needed to respect her boundaries. The argument ended when Sarah walked away with us, but I could tell she was shaken. That evening, after I helped Emma get ready for bed, I stepped outside to take the trash to the curb. Sarah was standing on her porch, staring at her phone. Mark had apparently called again. She looked overwhelmed. I walked over and asked if she was okay. She nodded, but her eyes told me otherwise. Then headlights appeared at the end of the street. Mark's car stopped outside Sarah's house. He got out and walked toward us. His voice was sharp as he demanded to know why Sarah had been with me all day. Sarah opened her mouth, but before she could answer, I stepped forward. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was the memory of watching my own life fall apart and knowing what it felt like to have no one stand beside you. Maybe it was simply because Sarah deserved one person who wouldn't be intimidated. I told Mark that she had been with me. He asked if that was supposed to mean something. I said she had been with me because she wanted to be, and he had no right to interrogate her. For a moment, the entire street seemed silent. Then Sarah smiled. It wasn't a playful smile. It was a quiet, emotional smile, the kind that reaches the eyes when someone finally feels protected instead of controlled. She stepped beside me and calmly said that I shouldn't make her correct me. Mark stared at us, realized he had lost the argument, and finally walked away. I expected Sarah to apologize for the situation. Instead, she looked at me and admitted that she had been smiling because, for the first time in a long time, someone had stood beside her without asking what it would cost him. That sentence stayed with me. Over the following weeks, something changed between us. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. It happened through small things. Sarah began leaving coffee on my porch before work. I started helping Noah with his science projects. Emma began calling Sarah her second favorite person in the world, right after me, which Sarah proudly accepted as a victory. But I was afraid. I had already lost one person I loved. Loving again felt dangerous. I worried that if I opened my heart, life would find another way to take everything away. Sarah seemed to understand without me explaining. One evening, while the children were drawing pictures at the kitchen table, she told me that loving someone wasn't a promise that nothing painful would ever happen. It was a decision to stop letting old pain control every new possibility. For the first time since my wife died, I allowed myself to imagine a future instead of simply surviving the present. Months later, Mark stopped coming around. Sarah established firm boundaries, and eventually their lives became separate except for the responsibilities they shared. Sarah didn't need me to rescue her. She needed someone who respected her strength and reminded her that she was worthy of being treated gently. And I realized I didn't need someone to replace the love I had lost. I needed someone with whom I could build a completely different kind of love. One spring morning, I woke up to find Emma and Noah running through the backyard. Sarah stood near the fence holding 2 cups of coffee. She looked at me and smiled. This time, there was no fear behind it. I walked toward her, took the coffee, and told her that I still remembered the night she smiled after I lied to her ex. She laughed softly and said that maybe it wasn't really a lie anymore. Because somewhere between 2 houses, 2 broken hearts, and 4 people learning how to trust again, something real had begun. If this story touched your heart, please don't just watch and move on. Like the video, share it with someone who needs to believe that love can return after heartbreak, and subscribe to Dad's Second Chance so we can keep telling stories about kindness, healing, and unexpected second chances. And before you go, I have one special request. Comment, I believe in second chances, if you believe that sometimes the right person enters your life not to erase your past, but to help you believe in the future again. Because sometimes, the greatest love story doesn't begin with someone saying, I love you. Sometimes, it begins with a simple smile that says, don't make me correct you. And sometimes, that smile is the beginning of home.